Need a push getting your emerging spirits, wine, or beverage brand into the hands of consumers? Interested in winning a double gold award? Proof Awards, the ultimate beverage competition where all judges are beverage buyers, can jumpstart your campaign. Enter the Proof Awards. It's time to get your spirits, wines, and cocktail mixers the attention they deserve. Take advantage of the Proof Awards exposure and marketing program with Food and Beverage Magazine. It's all about putting your bottle into the right hands. Your brands will be tasted and rated by judges that are all beverage buyers for bars, nightclubs, resorts, casinos, liquor stores, big box retail, and many beverage distributors from across the U.S. Enter your spirits, wine, or beverage brand today. Hundreds of categories to choose from. One simple way to sign up. Visit www.proofawards.com. That's www.proofawards.com. And follow the Enter portal into our competition.
Welcome to Proof Live, where booze brands in the right hands. On a quest for the best tipple and toast with the most exciting and respected bottlings. Competing for the 100-point Perfect Score Century Award and the double gold and a spot on the top shelf to be sipped, shaken, stirred, and celebrated. Slide up to the bar with the biggest names in the spirits game as they clink glasses with your hostess, legendary connoisseur Jennifer English, for intimate conversations, live tastings, product launches, and the happiest hour there is. Now, broadcasting live from the commodious confines of the Swanky Proof Saloon, where the liquid elite meet, here is your hostess, the Madam of Manhattans, the Duchess of Daiquiris, the Queen of Conviviality, your hostess, James Beard Award winner, Jennifer English.
Cheers and welcome, everybody. Hi, I'm Jennifer English, and it's season 2 of Proof Live. The 2021 Proof Awards took place not that long ago, and an entire slate from among the best producers in the world were chosen as award winners. And over the next several weeks and months, we're going to be talking to the winners of these coveted Proof Awards. They haven't been sent out yet. I actually got a sneak peek at what they're going to look like. You're going to see them on bottlings all over when you go into your favorite liquor stores, because the prize winners are going to announce them as themselves. So what does it take to win a Proof Award? Well, frankly, you've got to be the best of the best. And we're going to go today into a category that is near and dear to my heart. As many know, I spend a great deal of time in Tucson, Arizona. It's where my son was born, and it will always, that high Sonoran desert is always going to have a very special place in my heart. There are so many things about this region that are distinctive and remarkable, including the fact that in Tucson, Arizona, where it's known as the City of Gastronomy, named by UNESCO, for the fact that there are 4,000 years of continuous cultivation of food, culture, and conviviality, you begin to get a sense that this is an important place. In the world of agave spirits, which is absolutely booming both in terms of production, quality, and consumer interest, there is as much to learn in a lifetime as you can possibly imagine. And today we're going to go to the Sonoran region for a different reason. When we think of agave spirits, of course, everybody automatically thinks of tequila. But the category is much bigger than that. And every year, the Agave Spirits Festival plays host in the greater metropolitan Tucson and Sonoran area to a collection of distillers and brands and bottlings that are beginning to get people's attention. Tequila as a category, agave spirits in general, is booming, and people are becoming learned connoisseurs of what these fantastic products are and what they taste like. In addition to tequilas, which come in different styles based on how they're produced and aged, we have mezcals and Bacanoras. And there's an entire category. And today we're going to talk about Baccanora, and not just any Baccanora, but a multiple award-winning Baccanora from a family of brands. And the people who are bringing them to us today are joining us live from Sonora, from one of my favorite states in all of Mexico. Connie and Mel Abert are here from Novel Spirits Collection. How are you? Muy buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias to you too.
We're doing fantastic. How can we not?
Yeah, I know, you're in paradise. Let's talk about the fact that Baccanora is an agave spirit that is specifically made in the state of Sonora. And when we start talking about Bacanoras and mezcals, I immediately want to go to France and draw the distinction between brandies and cognacs, because I know a lot of people probably ask you to do this. And it's not an 100% fit, but it's pretty darn close, because in 2000, the Mexican government designated Sonora and Bacanora as a very distinctive original denomination within the Mexican spirits world. So can you talk a little bit about the designation of Bacanora as an origin denomination and what that means, and what is Bacanora?
Okay, well, Baccanora is made exclusively from the agave plant, the Pacifica agave, which grows primarily in the Sonoran area, plus a little bit up towards your direction in Tucson. But that's what they make Baccanora out of. They make Baccanora out of 100% Pacifica agave, no additives, 100%, and it's a little bit sweeter. It's a little bit smokier than tequila, but not as smoky as mezcal.
So is Baccanora a mezcal or a tequila? And how can you help me? So are all Bacanoras mezcals, but not all mezcals are Bacanoras?
Yep, you're absolutely right. Technically, all agave spirits are mezcal. But when you take a certain agave plant and take it out of the mezcal regions and bring it into another area and it's grown and produced, the plant takes on a different name. So the espadin plant, when it comes into Sonora and is grown and produced and distilled, it becomes Pacifica agave, technically Angustifolia Haw. So yes, it is technically a mezcal, but we consider it a very superior mezcal because it is at 100% pure.
Let's talk about the fact that the world is becoming enchanted by arguably the most enchanting spirit of them all, the agave spirits. Would you talk about how the agave spirits came to be important to you? How did you discover them?
Well, our adventure is probably very unique than most all the, 6,000 brands of tequila. We have a very intimate relationship with the state of Sonora. We've had a home down here in a place called San Carlos right on the coast for 35 years. And so we've had a love of the Mexican culture. And tequilas, Mel is actually the better historian. It's just been a part of the Mexican culture since day one. And cities and places and beaches to go, it also produces this fabulous spirit. And Mel's going to tell you the history of Bacanora, because I don't think it's so different from the history of a lot of agave spirits.
Well, I'll try and make this brief. Basically, Bacanora is literally hundreds of years old. The Indians used the Pacifica agave for a lot of different things, food, medicine, clothing, gosh, you name it, as well as a beverage, but it was fairly crude back in the day. In the 1500s, the Spaniards came and occupied Mexico, and that's when the stills were introduced. And then that really kind of started the modern day direction for the distillation and production of Bacanora. And so that continued for about 1900. And at 1900, it was the number 2 industry in the state of Sonora. It employed almost 1,000, and It was very, very popular. A lot of people were drinking it. Then there was a lot of turmoil between then and 1915 when a president was elected, or a governor, as Governor Calley, and he put a prohibition on all alcoholic beverages in the state of Sonora. If you were caught, drinking, producing, distributing Baccanora, you could get 5 years in prison automatically, or you could be hung, depending on how severe it was. So that lasted for till 1992, and in 1992, the Senate of Sonora gave Baccanora the right to be produced, and so it came out of the shadows. While it was in Prohibition, it was in all the stills moved up into the hills. It was kind of known as the moonshine of Mexico, or the secret of Sonora.
And we should say that
it's got a very colorful history.
We should say that I want people to understand it wasn't the moonshine because it was only produced in the mountains. It's the moonshine in Mexico because of these prohibitions on its legal production. And yet it has such a rich cultural root in when you discovered Baccanora, it was always in hushed tones, and you always had to know a guy, and you would see these big milk jugs that were brought up into Arizona if you were lucky enough, and you'd go to a party and someone would, pull out what looked like an old, Coke bottle in many instances and say, I was just down at my boat in San Carlos and look what I brought back. And if you were lucky enough to know somebody who knew a guy, you got a sip of something that was really quite distinctive and remarkable. Let's talk about how Baccanora is produced today and how the 2000 designation of the reclamation, if you will, of the spirit of Sonora really came to mean quality and distinctive craftsmanship, because the product that's produced today that the world is falling in love with is absolutely a product worth falling in love with and worthy of gold medals.
Well, Mel, you want to tell about the distillation?
Okay, well, so agave plants, which aren't ready to harvest until about 7, 8, 9 years after they plant them. So it's been since it was approved in 92, 95, they started planting agave plants again. They were all going from the wild to start with, but then they started the agriculture of growing the plants. So it takes a while for the plant to get mature enough to go ahead and distill. So it's been a slow process, and so here we are at 2021, soon 2022, and they are coming up to speed in terms of quantities and quality and all that. So it's taken a while for them to hone their craft and get things going and moving.
Well, and also in 2004, in order to get a nom, you have to get it approved by Mexico City. And in 2004, they took the formulas and they created its own spirit category. They were awarded their own nom, which designated it had to be 100% grown and produced in the state of Sonora, 100%, absolutely no additives, and Pacifica agave. So that really gave it elevated the quality level of the product because it is absolutely pure. A lot of products say they're pure, that they're honest, that they're artisanal. Can't be artisanal if you're producing 2.5 million cases. These are literally still being hand picked, hand labeled, hand poured. They're beautiful, really very small batch products that really gives them excellent quality.
How did you and Novel Spirits come to be in the Baccanora business?
Well, our son made us do it. It's kind of a fun story. He fell in love with a sushi chef, and for a hobby, he became a sake som in London. He moved to London, and he was judging the sake competitions at Harrods for like 5 years. So we were at the family house, and so he came to visit us, and because of his fascination for alcohol, of course, he goes to the local liquor store. This is about 7 years ago. He comes back into the house running, and he literally, it was Pascola. He had found it on the top shelf, and he goes, "This is incredible stuff. I'm going to import it into London." So we did, and like normal parents, we kind of shrugged our shoulders and said, "Sure, okay, go ahead." So he did, and for about 2 years, he started really getting to know Baccanora. He contacted distillers, he brought it into London, and he got some interest. And he kept saying, "Connie, you and Dad, you've got to do this. You've got to bring it to the U.S. because nobody's doing it, and you would be the first." And so we spent about 2 years studying the product with him, going all through Mexico and understanding other agave spirits, but primarily Baccanora. And he convinced us. And we thought, this is really something new and different that needs to be brought to the American public. So we set up our company and we started doing it. And that's when we learned how really very special and fun this business is, but how really taxing and difficult it is to bring a new product in, because nobody knows what Baccanora is.
It's not only a new product, but it's a new category that we're really trying to introduce and publicize the fact that you've got tequila, you've got mezcal, and right in between you've got Baccanora. And we've got to position it as such.
Yeah, education's our biggest challenge. And when we have friends over, we put the tip jar in the middle of the table, and anybody who calls it tequila has to put $1 in the jar, because can't tell you how many times we've told them the story and explained to them that it's own spirit category. They keep wanting because tequila's so familiar. So that's the biggest challenge, is education. But once people understand the story and hear it, they love it.
One of the things people love about the agave spirits is they're very healthful, and there's a whole tradition of agave spirits and everything from longevity to the cultural milestones of life in Mexico. Let's talk a little bit about your product. When people hear the name mezcal, they automatically think smoky. Your product has an even more distinctive, I'm going to call it finesse. And if you can use the word finesse and smokiness in the same sentence, it may sound a bit incongruous. But that's part of the enchanting quality of what you are bringing to the market. Would you please talk about what we're going to taste here? And as you can see, we've got the neat glass, which is the official tasting glass of the Proof Awards. And it really does so much to allow the aromatic qualities to announce themselves first. So let's start with what the house style of Pascola is.
Well, the thing to remember that Pascola is a fire, or all Baccanoras are a fire roasted product. So it does have a hint of smoke. Sometimes we like to call it a beginner mezcal because it's not as heavy and as complicated as most mezcals, where you feel like you've got a cigar in your mouth. It's much lighter. It's very vegetal. You could taste the agave because it doesn't have any additives. It's pure, so you can actually taste that Pacifica agave. Each, of course, just like wine and tequila mezcal, each distillery has their master distiller who finesses it to give it its particular flavor.
And I want to just add that particular flavor is influenced by where it's grown within the state of Sonora. It could be on the coastal plain, it could be in the mountains. So it just depends on where that particular plant is grown as to what the flavor is going to be, along with what the cook determines his recipe.
Because you actually cook the beautiful heart of the agave plant.
It's just like mezcal or tequila, where they take the piñas, they cut off all the stems, and they chop it up, and they put it. No, you tell it best.
Well, what they have is a pit, an earthen pit, and the pit is lined with rocks. And the rocks are, it's probably about 8 feet deep. And what they do is they take the piña, as Connie has talked about, where they take all the spikes off the plant. So what you are left with, they call it a piña because it looks like a pineapple. And so what they do is they chop it up into sections, and as hard as a rock. And while they're doing that, they put mesquite wood into the pit, light it on fire, cover it with corrugated steel, and then cover that with dirt. And then they cook that for about 3 days. And then they open it up, and inside the rocks are white hot. And then what they do is they dump the piña in, and then again they cover it up with the corrugated, cover it with dirt, and make sure there's nothing leaking out, so it's like steamed. And then they cook it for about 3 or 4 days. Open it up, and there they have really a mushy product that's in there that has, again, that a little bit of smoky flavor to it because it was, cooked with mesquite. And then they bring it out, they shred it, then they put them into barrels with spring water, and that's when the fermentation begins.
I absolutely love this. And I want to talk about the taste of your product. And I want you to take us through a usual tasting. When you go around the world, your education process. Educate everybody today on what it is we're having.
What we're having is we're going to have one with you, just a sip.
Why not?
I think that because it's delicious. Well, the flavor, like I said, it's actually Bon Appetit gave us a great quote. It says, Baccanora is not as sharp as tequila, and it's way friendlier than the mezcal, and we're very into it. So we use that in our marketing a lot because we feel that it gives us some credence for being such a great product. But in our finding it, when we first started doing this 7 years ago, even in Sonora, we would go into restaurants. It was not in any back bars. It was not in any restaurants. You go to talk to people and everybody would go, oh no, Baccanora bad, right? And since then, this trip especially has been amazing because we hadn't been down here for 2 years because of COVID. And it's just been wonderful because we go into the restaurants and bars and they have developed wonderful cocktails. They've got Baccanora. If you look behind us, there's a whole row from here to here of Baccanoras. So they're not afraid of it anymore, of their own culture. But the taste is
and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to add to this. It's almost as if to use the moonshine example is a disservice because in the American market, moonshine had to retain a rustic, fiery quality. And I think that does a great disservice to Baccanora because Baccanoras are much more refined in their category than moonshines are in the category in the US. You understand? So to say that it's like that because of its history is similar, but to me, it's much more like cognacs and armagnacs. They're both very elegant expressions, and yet they're very distinctive and differentiated, not just by the region they're from, but by the way that they taste. And so would you talk a little bit about what we're going to discover and how we want to introduce people to this? Because if you have ever tasted a tequila, even a reposado that you really liked, I think you will love, if you've gone over that bridge, you're going to love Baccanoras, and in particular, the Pascola.
Yes.
I think the first experience that you should have with tasting and discovering Baccanora is you really taste it with your nose and your mouth open. Put your nose in the glass, leave your mouth open, and breathe in, and you can almost taste all the the ingredients, and you can taste the dirt of Sonora, you can taste the plant, or you can and then you go ahead and taste it and actually taste it. But it's got a very, very unique flavor, and our particular brands, which are distilled by our females, both females, and are exceptional products. So we're real pleased with it, and we think the taste is really superior.
And this is utterly delicious.
One thing that's really interesting is, Baccanora, when it comes right out of the still, it's very high alcohol content. And I just learned recently that how they get it to be much softer, much more gentle. It's just like when you're sauteing onions. The best way to do it is put a little bit of liquid in at a time, let it soak up into the flavor of the onions, and then put in more liquid and just do a little at a time, and it's a process. And by the end, you get this amazing flavor. Well, that's what they do with Baccanora. They add a little bit of water at a time to try to bring down the alcohol content and bring out the sugar from the agave. And it's a very slow process. They do it with care, and it just brings out this wonderful flavor of the natural sugars in the agave, and mixed with bringing the alcohol content, because you have to be under 50% in order to import. But it also just brings more of the flavor of the agave out. And I think that's what makes Baccanora so special.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for making time to come and talk with us and to give us our primer on the world of Baccanora. Personally, I want to give you a quote as well. I think that the Pascola, of all the Baccanoras that I've tried, this represents the heart and soul of Sonora. You've really captured something, and in all the ways that you recognized that this is such an exemplary expression of this spirit, that was a connoisseur's move, but it was also something that you could bring to the world and say, discover this. And I thought that was a really a wonderful serendipity. So thank you for doing this. Is there a house toast, a Pascola house toast that you share with your guests?
Well, we don't have a specific toast for Baccanora. However, we do have a toast that we use. May all your life's ups and downs always be under your own blanket.
Oh my!
I just said
okay. Well, God bless you. I'll drink to that.
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. Baccanora has brought so much to our life, so much richness, and we love the product, and we hope you do too.
Well, listen, congratulations on your proof awards. They can be found at novelspiritscollection.com. Baccanora, once again, is going to be booming over the next few years. And it's such an exciting and delicious category. It's just one of many things that we discovered this year at the Proof Awards. And I want to salute Connie and Mel Abert for the beautiful Pascola that we've tasted today. Thank you so very much for being here, and safe travels and cheers.
Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Whether you are thinking about becoming a restaurateur or you are already in the business, Michael Politz has written a must-read, The Food and Beverage Magazine's Guide to Restaurant Success. Pick up your copy today at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Books A Million, or wherever fine books are sold.
you.